Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here today for this Fermenting February collaboration. Thanks, Anna, for inviting me to join. I'm Sheila, also known as Mama Hoss. We own Hoss Tools, and I watched Anna's Fermentation February last year and learned so much. So when she invited me this year, I was beyond tickled to be part of it. And while I'm just a beginner fermenter as far as vegetables, I have been doing wine for about 15 years. So I asked Anna, can I do my fermenting Roselle wine recipe? And she said, sure. So today, join me as I show you how I make this Roselle wine. Now, this took about a little over 3 months from start to finish. A lot to pack into one video. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask. Also, comment on the video for your chance to win some of the great prizes that Anna has in store for you. On Monday night on her live, she will draw prizes from the previous week's videos, comments, or actually the whole month of Fermenting February. So don't forget to comment for your chance to win. And then there's a grand prize at the end from all the comments. So join me today as I take you on the journey of how to ferment this Roselle and make this wine.
Roselle, isn't this gorgeous? Look at that calyx and that bloom. You can use the calyx either fresh or dried. It's great for beverages, jams, wine, tea. You can eat the leaves. Today we're going to focus on the calyx, and I'm going to show you how I make my Roselle wine. So normally you let the bloom fall out of the calyx, but we have some freezing weather coming, so I'm going to go ahead and harvest these a little early. I'm removing the seed from the inside, and you can do this several different ways. On the screen is listed the equipment you will need to make this wine. After I remove the blooms, I'm going to give the calyx a quick wash. Although it's just rain, I still feel that I need to rinse it. And I'm going to place it in a boiler of water. And I'm going to put as much as possible in these boilers. And what I've done is over the period of a week, I've harvested these every day and did this process every night, and then put the juice in the fridge until I had enough for 6 gallons of wine. We're going to bring this to a boil and then cut it down and let it simmer for about an hour. Then I put a lid on it and let it steep overnight. Here you can see some of the juice that I've gathered during the week. And again, I just simply keep it in the fridge until I'm ready to use it. Here I'm letting it sit out to get to room temperature because I'm going to mix this up tonight. As this cooks down, the calyx will fall apart and disintegrate, and then you will need to strain it into a food grade bucket or a container. Don't throw away this pulp. It's really great to put in your dehydrator or freeze dryer and make a powder out of it for teas later on. Now, for 6 gallons of wine, you need 4 to 5 gallons of juice. And for 1 gallon, you need about 3/4 gallon of juice. You want to check your specific gravity and potential alcohol before adding any ingredients. My potential alcohol was 2% and specific gravity 1.012. As sugar is added to this mixture, the hydrometer will rise and the readings will go up. The ideal specific gravity is in the range of 1.085 to 1.095. Sugar, and I know this looks like a lot of sugar, but sugar is essential in the creation of alcohol during the fermentation process. Too little sugar will result in a wine that's not properly fermented. Too much sugar can cause the wine to taste sweet. The ideal amount of sugar will depend on the type of fruit you're using, the type of yeast, and the desired final product. I like a semi-sweet wine. I do not like a really sweet or a really dry. Without sugar, there would be no wine, regardless of whether the finished pour is sweet or dry or somewhere in between. The more sugar present, the higher alcohol content. Wine tannin for wine structure, yeast nutrient to help promote proper yeast production, and acid blend for a balance. You can use lemon juice instead of the acid blend. Give this a good stir, and then the next step is to add your dissolved sugar mixture once it has reached room temperature. Once this is added, your volume should be up to 6 gallons, and you want to stir this really well before you check the specific gravity and potential alcohol content again. After mixed well with the sugar, check your specific gravity and potential alcohol again. Mine rose to 10% potential alcohol and 1.076 specific gravity. If you would like a higher alcohol content, you would simply add more sugar. Again, sugars in wine are the heart of what makes winemaking possible during the process of fermentation. Next, we will sprinkle our yeast on top. Do not stir this in. Please note the date is November 13th. So this will be the date that I note that I have started this batch of wine. Also, different types of yeast can produce drier or sweeter wine. After the yeast is sprinkled on top, you want to cover your primary fermenter, not so much as it cannot get air, but to keep any critters out. And you're just going to keep an eye on it for about 48 hours till you see the activity. It will actually start after about 24 hours. Now this is at 48 hours and it is cooking up a storm. Once you see this, stir twice a day. Become a wine watcher. Say good morning and good night to your wine every day. Keep an eye on it. Keep it stirred. Make sure it's still doing its thing. After 5 days, check the specific gravity to see if it's where you want it to be. Do you want it dry, sweet, or really sweet? When you've reached the desired sweetness by checking the specific gravity, you can then rack into your secondary fermenter. Now this can be plastic or glass, whatever your preference is. I was gifted some glass ones and I do like them, but the plastic ones are a little bit easier for me to handle. Always start with clean equipment. Here I'm using a racking tube and a siphoning stem. You just pump the siphoning stem and it creates a flow. and you just let it flow into your secondary fermentation vessel. It's going to be cloudy. You're going to see some sediment, and that's okay because it's going to continue to ferment in this secondary fermentation vessel for a couple of weeks. Notice the date on the screen. This is 7 days after we added the yeast that we're putting into our secondary fermentation vessel. My potential alcohol at this point was down to 2% and specific gravity down to 1.014. Now there will be some stuff in the bottom of your primary fermenter. Don't get all that. You will need an airlock. The airlock is just a simple device that acts as a one-way valve, allowing carbon dioxide gas created during the fermentation to escape, but prevents any bacteria from reaching the wine. You also want to cover this and keep it in a dark place. These are some covers a friend gifted me 15 years ago. Now, at this stage, you're going to see bubbles come up in the airlock. That is absolutely normal because it is going to continue to ferment for several weeks. You do want to see this. After 3 weeks and your fermentation has stopped, you will notice there's no more air bubbles. It's ready to rack. You want to use Camden tablets or some other type of sanitizer to kill any bacteria that may be present, and it also is used as a preventative when racking wine and also acts as an antioxidizing agent. You can crush the tablets and dissolve it in a little bit of water. I just typically crush and put in the bottom of my carboy. And as the wine flows in, it will dissolve and mix them up. As you can see on the screen, this is December 13th. It's about 3 weeks after we started. I'm going to add some potassium sorbate. This stops the fermentation if any is still going on and kills the yeast that might still be active. This is a very important step. I'm just going to add this to the bottom also. And again, I'm going to use my siphon with my racking tubing. Make sure all your equipment is very clean. You do not want to introduce any bacteria. Remove your airlock. And siphon into another carboy. So I've done this for 15 years and I've gathered my equipment over that time, but you basically will need 2 carboys so you can transfer from one to another. In the beginning, my friend and I did this together and we just shared all the equipment. And still, a lot of the equipment we have, I share. Now, when you get to the bottom on this particular racking, you want to tilt that carboy and try not to get any of that sediment that's at the bottom. Here you can see all that sediment that was left behind. Again, you don't want to have this in the second racking. At this point, I taste my wine. If I want it a little sweeter, I add this wine conditioner. It just adds some residual sweetness and helps prevent any further fermentation. This is totally preference, but a slight sweetness in the wine brings out its flavor and masks any harshness that might be common in young wines. The sweetness is a level of personal preference. So always taste your wine and do what works for you. When you're finished, always add your airlock and cover again. The last step is to stabilize and clear. I use super clear according to the package directions. After adding, you do need to stir vigorously to degas the wine. And I did this on January the 20th, about 7 days after I added the wine conditioner and the potassium sorbate. It comes in 2 packets. You add 1 packet and stir, wait an hour, and then you add the other packet. Also, at this point, you want to top off your wine. It is essential to not have a great amount of air at the top of the carboy. Exposure to air or oxygen can oxidize the wine and cause spoilage. You can top off with a similar wine. In this case, I took some dried calyx and made some more tea and just topped them off with the Roselle tea. Here I'm stirring vigorously to degas the wine. Insufficient stirring will cause or prevent the wine from clearing properly. Again, after topping off, stirring, add your airlock and cover back on. And now we will wait for it to stabilize and clear. Here I'm cleaning my bottles. I do reuse my bottles. I'm just going to use some dish detergent and some Clorox, fill them up with water and let them sit overnight, and then I'll rinse them out really well. The color of the bottle, they say red wine should be in green bottles and white or rosé should be in clear or lightly covered bottles. To me, it's totally preference. I love this rose color bottle for my Roselle wine. I just think it makes it really pretty. I've got a brush. I'll scrub down the inside well, rinse them, and then I will put a mixture of crushed Camden tablets in them to actually sanitize them. And I'm good to go for the wine bottling. Now, after I added the clearing agent, I waited 7 to 14 days, and this will be the last time I rack it. After this racking, it will be ready to bottle. Be very careful not get any sediment from the bottom of the carboy. Even though it looks like good wine, do not put it in this last racking. As always, be sure to cover your wine, put your airlock back on. And I think I've said this before, but the ideal temperature is a location that's around 65 to 75 degrees. You don't want it too cold, it won't ferment, or too warm, it'll ferment too quick. So here's my wine bottles ready to fill with wine. Attach your bottle filler to your siphon tubing. When you press down, it allows the wine to flow freely. When you let up, the wine stops. So you use the same siphon and pump that you've used to rack. Be careful lowering it down into the wine so that you do not overflow. There is a piece that goes on here that can actually hold your tubing in place so that it does not go all the way down to the bottom. You can slowly lower it. So just start pumping the siphon tubing, press down on the bottle filler, and the wine will start flowing. When the wine gets all the way to the top of the bottle and you remove the filler, it'll be right at the level that you need. Isn't this gorgeous? So pretty. Now the wine can be consumed at this point, but it would really benefit with aging 6 months to a year in the bottle. And shortly we're going to taste some that I bottled 2 years ago and compare it to the taste of this. Now, apart from the delightful taste, Roselle is a great source of nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. It has vitamin B12, vitamin A, C, iron, calcium, magnesium, potassium. Roselle has been used as a therapeutic plant for centuries. Traditionally, extracts treat toothache, urinary tract infection, and even hangovers. It has been noted that it can help stabilize blood pressure, lower cholesterol, maintain healthy teeth and gums, treatment of the common cold, prevention of constipation, antioxidant. Next, we're going to cork our wine. I use a number 8 straight cork, and this is a floor corking model. A friend of mine gave this to me for my birthday. These floor models are really suitable when you've got a lot to bottle. Now this 6 gallons of wine will fill 30 wine bottles. And this goes rather quickly when you're bottling. There's all different types of corkers out there. There's hand corkers, there's plastic hand corkers, and I did have a small hand one to begin with, but it was, if you do it like 30 bottles at a time, it's just a lot harder. And me and my friends share this one. It just rotates from house to house. Next, we're going to put the shrink wraps on the wine bottles by using this embosser tool. This is an old scrapbooking tool I have, but you can find these on Amazon. And Valerie has been helping me today. She is my neighbor, my friend, my partner in crime, and I actually helped her make wine the last couple of years, and we share our tools. This part right here goes rather quickly. Here we're just putting labels on. These are some I just printed off. They're just a standard label. The pre-made ones I find rather expensive. And no, I do not sell this. I just make it for a hobby, share it with my friends. Great birthday and Christmas presents. So next, this is a bottle of wine from 2020, 3 years ago. And we're going to compare the taste of this 3-year-old Roselle wine to the wine we just bottled. This is a bottle from 2020, and we think we deserve a drink after all that work, don't you?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Cheers to good friends. Oh, it's really good.
How does it compare to the one we just bottled?
It don't even compare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's still a little young.
Young. Yeah. This is good. Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out all the channels below, also participating in this fermenting February. Don't forget to leave your comments and check out Hall's Tools for all your seeds and tool needs.